I want to talk to you today about the funnel effect when writing or making artwork. Please bear with me because I need to explain a few different things to get across what I'm trying to explain. First example, have you ever watched a silent film and thought that the actors were way overacting? Every expression they made was like as if everything else in the film stops just for them to make that expression, and all the motions are overdone, and they're all wearing heavy makeup that make their eyes stand out and their eyebrows stand out. Why did they do that? The thing is that art today is doing very much the same thing, and with our advances in media but this happens in writing too. In most cases we are not as aware of it because we grew up consuming art, and we've learned the language of art. We've learned that these overacted occurrences in writing, drama, film, artwork are it happens on a subconscious level, so that our experience of that art still takes us to that virtual place that the artist wants to take us to, and we're not consciously aware that the actual art in a lot of cases could be seen as overdone compared to reality. In the arts, limitations can greatly free up the artist. And as an example, if you're a painter and you limit your painting to 2 colors, you can discover all these new things, you can make all these new advances in discovery and learn a lot of new things. So what seems like a limitation, this is the kind of thing that creativity thrives in. Now, all forms of art, writing, film, is very much like trying to push a human experience through a funnel. There is a limiting effect, and so we're telling stories, being creative with human experience, but because of the nature of the medium, we still need to push it through a funnel. Now, if you think about it, the difference between experiencing what you're experiencing right now, the room around you, the sounds, the sense of gravity, the feeling that you're getting from electrostatic on the carpet, there is a multitude of sensory inputs that you're experiencing on conscious and subconscious level. Your real life experience is much more full of information than reading words on a page. The limit of words on a page compared to your real life experience is extraordinary. And yet, when we read a good book, the experience we have it really is amazing that we can interpret these little squiggles on a surface, and from that get a virtual experience of another world, go to and have a great adventure and empathize with these characters that are completely made up, so artwork thrives in this funnel effect, and to work with, to be aware of and work with that funnel effect can improve your writing and artwork. So silent film came out of stage acting, and on stage acting, in its earliest forms, they didn't have amplifiers, they didn't have actors wearing the mics, they didn't have electric lighting. They had these packed rooms where the actors had to shout out every line, and they had to make large movements so that the people in the back in a dimly lit environment could even see what they were doing. And so when you go into silent film, you weren't able to have a lot of dialogue, so the audience needed to be able to be communicated through gestures, and so there is this need for overacting. And in film today, if you look at it, if you watch films, watch for exactly the subtle way that even actors today overact compared to the way people act in real life. And this is to show how talented they are as actors. This is something necessary to being an actor, because the medium that they're working through has that tunnel effect. We cannot, when we give someone a work of art, we cannot give them the experience like real life of a multitude of information input. We are limited to a DVD. We are limited to video and sound. And that is very limiting compared to all the sensory information. As an example, you're watching a film, you're caught up in the drama, it is very compelling. But now the next time that you step on a crowded elevator and you're anxious, your energy level goes up, and you're picking up. Now, what happens is you're just standing on an elevator with no one saying anything, and yet you have a great sense of who the other people are, how they're feeling, more or less. If they're stressed, if they're bored, if they're leaving work or going to work, you're able to get a lot of information from these people that you're near that are, for the most part, hardly doing anything. And that's because in real life we're able to take full advantage of receiving and interpreting information, and we can't. In 2013, we still can't create art with that great input level. And so in real life, we react so strongly to real life because we have so much more information to work with that describes to us the reality that we're in, and it gives us a much greater sense of reality. But in artwork, it is extremely limited to what is shown on screen and or what is described in words. And so the writer, the filmmaker, needs to incorporate, needs to be thoughtful about what exactly they do write about the gestures that their characters do make, what they, because in real life we have peripheral vision. We can be looking at someone speaking and still in our peripheral be very aware of the minute gestures that those around us are making, but in a book or in a film we don't get that. Re-representing reality in art is, throughout the whole history of artwork, that re-representation has always needed to be cartoonified, simplified, overacted, and there has always needed to be this, we cannot, it actually takes away from art to bother to, if you were to recreate every minute detail, if you were to write about everything that a real human being experiences in a real life experience, and this has been done, you would need to write an entire book just for a few hours of what a human in real life experiences. And if you read like the Confessions of St. Augustine, you'll realize that you can get this really, not literally microscopic, but you can get all this detail, about every tiny little thing happening in the environment. And for the effect of good storytelling, that sort of writing just does not work well with good storytelling. But what does work well is to be very choosy about what you do, what details you do choose to put in. And it is as much about knowing what to leave out as it is what to put in. And becoming aware of how all artwork uses to their advantage a certain finessed overacting, uses to their advantage a cartoonifying of experience, a filter of what to leave out as the story goes along, and what choice details to put in that will most pull the reader, viewer, into that virtual reality. Why is it that it can give the reader or viewer a wonderful virtual experience of being transported to another reality? This is because subconsciously the readers and viewers fill it in. They create a lot of, if you read The Wizard of Oz, subconsciously everyone who reads that book has their own Wizard of Oz. Subconsciously they put in these blurry background images. And that's one of the wonderful things about art is that while you're reading a good book, it will look different for each one who reads that, and the experience will be just as real. And this is one of the theories of minimalistic art, is that you only put in the absolutely necessary stuff and let the subconscious of the viewer fill the rest of it in, because this is something that subconscious minds do, and do it very well. Why is it that people always say that the book was better than the movie? My theory is that people's subconscious is extraordinary at making up alternate realities, and all we need is a good writer that can make our subconsciouses come alive and create these amazing, realities that the stories take place in, that will always be more amazing than, and there are wonderful filmmakers out there, but they are still limited compared to the abilities of subconscious minds to create alternate realities. So how can we take advantage of the funnel effect? First of all, be very choice about what details you put in your story. If you want to show a character who has been devastated, and when you show that, you want the reader to be full of empathy and just like thinking, I can't believe it, the main character, oh, this is terrible, what is going to happen next? Really, if you describe some of their reactions, their eyebrows are quivering, and you write about it, about all the things, the reactions that happen with it, then you can go back and you can think, well, wait a minute, in this story, if I just say that their eyebrows were quivering, that might be enough for the reader then to fill the rest of it in. And if the main character just says a few things that only someone truly devastated would say, that might be enough to go on about, all the, they're crying, all this to have them wallow in it might defeat the purpose. But if you give just a few choice details, the reader, the viewer, will do the rest. Their subconscious will create for them a feeling of that main character being devastated. Another thing you can do is to become aware of how all artwork cartoonifies, oversimplifies, overdramatizes, and filters out and all of this in order to be better art. And so the next time you watch a movie, notice that for 5 seconds the camera was only showing the eyes of one of the characters for 5 seconds, and there were all these other things going on in the story, but they chose to, at that point, focus in on a very small part of what was happening to have those particular details conveyed to the viewer. Once you begin to become more aware of these techniques than in other art, then you can start to learn from other writers and artists how they did it, the kind of choices they made. And this becomes a great learning tool, because now you have a way of finding technique in the artwork that you really enjoy, because you can say, oh, look at this, this was an amazing paragraph, and if you go back and it has such a strong feeling to it, and it made me feel so much for the characters involved. And if you go back, there's only one or two little points about what the characters were feeling. What were those one or two little points that conveyed such a three-dimensional sense to the reader? Now, if you can get a paper towel roll and look through it, this is very much what it is like to watch a film or read a book. Get a paper towel roll and just walk around, and even if you have earplugs, put earplugs in, and try to spend a little bit of time looking at reality through a tunnel effect, and see what that is like, and try to see how that writing and filmmaking is very much like that. The next time you watch a film, imagine that it was filmed through a paper towel roll. See, what happens when you embellish too much is you actually take the reader out of the story. Then they're looking at the words on page again. If you bring up some real choice pieces of information, they're virtually transported, they forget that they're reading, they're fully in the story. But then if you continue to describe the trim work on the windowsill, then they're like, well, my subconscious already took care of that, and then they're looking at the words on the page again, and it isn't, they aren't as transported that way. The subconscious in a human wants to be the inner filmmaker, wants to be the inner virtual reality creator. And when you give the subconscious room to do that, you are accessing a power of art communication that is just very powerful. With the example of the elevator. So you're on the elevator and you really have a very strong experience, you leave the elevator having gotten all these strong impressions of what is happening with the other people on the elevator. But if a filmmaker filmed that elevator experience, think about it, it would just be an elevator with people standing, seemingly doing nothing. So this shows the difference between the reality of what we see through film and an actual real-life experience. So what does the artist need to do? The artist then needs to incorporate certain forms of overacting. The artist wants to convey a similar experience to that real person actually in really taking the ride on the elevator, but needs to incorporate these techniques of cartoonifying, overacting. So what they would do is they would have one of the people on the elevator make a gesture that would convey how they were feeling, where in real life they wouldn't need to make that gesture. You could still, when you're really there, your fine senses pick up all this stuff that just can't be conveyed in a film or book. Re-represent reality in a way that we can derive similar conclusions that we come to from using those fine senses that we can use in real life to know the reality around us. So in real life, we could be in a room full of people and we're talking to one person, and out of the corner of our eye we see one person we know put their hand on another person's shoulder. So in real life, this is just something we see out of focus while we're busy talking to someone else. Now, if that same scene is done in a film or a story, you know that the camera is going to be on that hand on the shoulder, because that is an important detail. You know that if it is written that in the paragraph there will be explicit sentences saying so-and-so puts their hand on the shoulder, because that is an important detail that has a lot of meaning for humans. The reason I'm making this video is because I want the opportunity to tell more people about my website, my solomation.com website, where I am the story that I care so much about working on. I'm putting up there for free for viewing. I'm working on the next episode, and I'm asking you, if you like this video, if you got something from it, please, if you have time, go and check out that website, solomation.com. And I hope your writing goes great. I hope your artistic creation goes well, and I hope you have a good day.